I'm doing well. How are you? Good. I know, right? It's weird to think about. It's been a year. I'm a junior.
Okay, would like to call the meeting to order. First thing that we get to do tonight is always something we love to do, and that is a recognition. The Board of Education would like to recognize Mrs. Koppelman for being selected the Missouri History Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Koppelman was nominated by a teacher in Cuba, Missouri. She was presented the award in September at the Best Practices in History Education Conference hosted by the Missouri Council for the History Education in Independence, Missouri. So, Mrs. Koppelman, would you please come down and accept this award from the board? Congratulations. Now you have to come over here to the center, so see the Bulldog Pride and everything like that. There you go.
Well, I'm just talking if you can hear me.
Well, you have to go to the microphone.
Oh, okay.
You're actually on TV. So.
Oh, well, let's not put any pressure on this, okay? I just, want to thank you for the acknowledgement, but more importantly, I hope everyone here understands how much teachers appreciate your support. With your guys' support, it allows teachers to seek out really great professional development, and it brings some really great professional development to us in-house. And these are the opportunities that allow teachers to get creative and get authentic and fun lessons in the classroom. So when we love to teach, our students love to learn, and that's just a direct reflection of the climate that you all have designed for Rolla. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, questions from the floor. At this time, any person wishing to speak on any question previously discussed through administrative channels and not on the agenda will be granted 5 minutes to make a presentation to the board. And please state your name for the record. Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to presentations on agenda items. Any person wishing to speak on any items on the agenda will be granted 5 minutes to make a presentation. And please state your name for the record. Alrighty, go on to the consent agenda. A consent agenda is utilized by the Rolla Board of Education as a means of dealing with routine matters which must be considered by the Board of Education but require a minimum of discussion. All Board of Education members receive and review written information supporting the items listed on the consent agenda well in advance of the meeting. While any Board of Education member is welcome to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate consideration or discussion for any reason, normally all items on the consent agenda are approved in one motion with a minimum of discussion. Tonight it's recommended that the following be approved, and it's items A through K, but I would like to bring notice to item K. The notice of school board elections is submitted for approval. The 3-year terms of Mr. Jim Packard and Mr. Jamie Myers expires in April of 2019. Filing will begin December 11th, 2018 at 8 o'clock a.m. and ends at 5 p.m. January 15th, 2019. It is recommended that Ms. Stacy Harris, Secretary to the Superintendent, be authorized to proceed with filing candidates for director in the absence of the Secretary of the Board. So if anyone would like to apply for one of those positions, they will come up to central office starting on December 11th. Right. So Mr. Packard, Mr. J. Myers. Anything you want to say?
Are you putting them on the spot?
Okay, we'll leave it at that. All right. So now I guess I need a motion to approve agenda items A through K.
I'll make the motion to approve items A through K.
All right. And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All righty. Very good. Okay, under new business, we tonight have with us Lynn Graves. He's the representative from Graves and Associates, CPA, and will be on hand to present the 2017-18 District Audit Report.
Good evening to those who weren't in the Finance Committee meeting. We had a real good session in there and covered a lot more detail than I'll try to cover for you at this point in time for the sake of timeliness and a lot of people probably in more business to be conducted. But we're back presenting the 2017-18 audit report. We did field work last summer and back here late in the fall to get the report back to you. And if we look at the first 3 pages of the report, this is what you've retained us to do, and that's perform sufficient audit procedures on the books and records to allow us to come back and render this opinion. And we're rendering an unmodified opinion, which is what you want to hear us come back and report to you, that nothing came to our attention, either situationally or departures from accounting principles, that would warrant a modification. Then we'll jump back to page 22. This is the fund statement. And there's lots of information in here, and I know you'd like for me to read every bit of it to you, but we're going to move on from that and hit some of the highlights here. If you look at the total governmental column, and there you'll see that the district had $45 million of revenue for the year, which is a 4% increase over the prior year, and last year you had a 4% increase. So that's a real healthy percentage increase that we're seeing, probably in the 3 to 4% increase in this audit cycle for the school districts in this area. At the same time, you had a 1% increase in real spending when we adjust for the fact that you spent about $6 million on facilities last year, that you only spent about $1 million this year. So when you have that kind of revenue increase and it exceeds your spending by that much, you're going to have a pretty good bottom line. And so you had $1,588,000 net increase in fund balances for the year, compared to $430,000 the year before. Page 24 and 5. This is proprietary fund, the only one the district has, which is the self-insurance fund. And the bottom line to know about this is this $2,800,000 balance is the net savings the district has garnered up to this point in time since you implemented the self-insurance fund. So this is a real good stewardship effort on behalf of the district to have this in place, because if you didn't have it in place, this would have gone out in additional health care costs to somebody else instead of the district retaining it and managing it. Moving on to the footnotes of the financial statements, we'll look at page 36. And the cash and investments. The most important thing that I report back to you at this time is, under state law, the district is required to keep its deposits either covered through pledge collateral or FDIC coverage, and we found the district to be in compliance with that state requirement. Page 40, talking about the bonded indebtedness of the district. As you know, you issued a new issue this year, which was a refunding issue. You had done one of those, and if you look on page 41 down there at the very bottom, the $4,630,000 general obligation refunding bond issue. The important thing there is the district should realize about $183,000 of interest savings over the life of that bond issue. So again, you got the board and the district being worked. The auditor is required to review the district's budgeting procedures to make sure they're in compliance with budgetary chapter 67. And the most important thing to you is that we found the district to be in compliance with those budgeting requirements. page 81 and 82. This is a schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Based on federal guidelines, we have to select certain programs for testing for both compliance and internal control. And in doing so, we then come back and issue the subsequent 2 reports there. And again, the main thing for you is that we found you to be in compliance with those federal guidelines on both internal control and compliance. The only issue you have in there is a segregation of duty issue that virtually everyone gets in their audit reports anymore. It's been in there now for many years. We just have to leave it in there from year to year because that's the way the reporting standards require us to do that. And the last item to mention, going all the way to things, is this says requirements is issued 2018 audit report.
Okay, are there any questions?
Oh, just a couple
Or-
of comments,
okay, comment.
if I could. Mrs. Jameson and Mr. Packard met with Mrs. Atkinson, myself, and Dr. Dare and Mr. Hounsome. So we met upstairs to go through this in greater detail. Certainly appreciate you spending the time with us explaining the complexity of all the government accounting standards, plus the pointing out the things that we always look to do better, but I would give kudos to Kendra and her department. Also, many of the principals and directors are here.
I can stand here all night if
Okay,
you want me to, because I got new metal knees here, so I'm not fading like I used to.
All right. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, at this time, then I would like a motion to accept the 2017-2018 audit.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we sure do thank Kendra for her leadership too in this. Okay, Dr. Dare, we'll discuss adding an additional AVAC position to the maintenance department.
It's about as exciting as an audit report, but
It is.
we'll get there.
It is to Mr. Packard.
So, a little bit of background. We've been having conversations with Larry Moreland and his staff about some of the needs in the district. And of course, we've added a lot of square footage, a lot of acreage over the past year or two and few months. So one of the areas that we've identified as a potential area of concern is our HVAC program, our heating and air systems. So there are roughly 160 large units in the district, and of course, thousands of components to those systems. So currently we have one full-time HVAC technician, and then he is supplemented by a maintenance worker that assists him as needed. And it seems like as of late that assistance as needed has turned into always. The problem with that is then that pulls our maintenance worker away from those other duties that need to get taken care of. So much of our time spent now is in repair and chasing problems. So our hope would be with adding a second position, we could get ahead of that, do a little more on the maintenance side of that and preventative maintenance and extend the life of our units. So our proposal, what we're asking you to consider is adding one additional full-time HVAC technician. And then that would allow our general maintenance worker to address the mowing and the general maintenance things that need to get taken care of. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions, but really it's just that simple.
Okay.
One thing you did mention, I'll pipe in, is that none of our equipment's getting any younger.
Correct. Yes.
And we identified a lot of HVAC equipment during our planning, facilities plan, that really is coming to the end of its life. And as it approaches that, it needs more maintenance to keep it running, so.
Okay. We have a motion to add an additional HVAC position.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, great. Dr. Dare, you're up next too.
Thank you.
To tell us about information regarding grant money that Raleigh Public Schools will receive from Volkswagen Trust. It will enable us to purchase 3 new buses, and the grant money will provide for 25% of the cost of each bus.
So let me give you a little bit of background on this program. Volkswagen Trust, go ahead, Myra, if you would. 2015, Volkswagen admitted to using their software to change emission results on vehicles, Volkswagen and Audi vehicles. So American consumers during that time period that was affected by this purchased 590,000 vehicles. Missouri's share of that was 7,500 vehicles. So of the $2.9 billion settlement that was reached, Missouri's share of that is roughly $41 million. So those funds are going toward air pollution control measures, emissions control measures. They're appropriated by the legislature annually. Volkswagen is providing a share of those funds annually for the next few years. That hasn't been hard and fast designated, but the legislature has appropriated the funds for this year. $1.474 million, $1 million for bus replacement, school bus replacement. $474,000 was set aside for financially disadvantaged schools. We do not qualify for that. Those were designated by the Department of Natural Resources. DNR used those funds as matching grant funds for federal dollars, which was very appreciated, and I think a wise move on their part. So it upped the total available funds for this year to just over $2.1 million. So the designated funding was for 79 buses for 45 school districts. And again, we mentioned 25% funding per approved bus. I'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about that. So with the assistance of our transportation department, and I would like to thank Loretta and Scott and the mechanics, they had to get quite a bit of information together for us to get this grant application in. They did a great job with that. But we got that sent in October. And I'd also like to thank Rodney Bourne and John Butts with RMU in the city. We were getting bits and pieces of information about the grant, but they've also applied for pieces of the grant, and we're getting additional information. So their communication with us was very helpful for us to know when things were due and additional information that was out on the websites that we weren't necessarily seeing. So we appreciate their help. And I do believe they have applied for some things as well, and I don't know their approval status, but we certainly wish them the best of luck too. So all the approved applications that were sent in that met all the requirements, had all the required components, were put into a random lottery drawing. And initially, Rolla Public Schools was second on the alternate funding list. We did not make the first draw. But some of the schools that applied for funding apparently either didn't understand the process or did not have the funding set aside for this fiscal year. I think they were thinking maybe it was next year. And so some of the schools denied their funding, and that enabled us to be bumped up the list. So the structure of the grant, we have to replace... You don't like our proposed bus?
I'm not sure the emissions on that one.
Right? So we're replacing 95 to 2006 model buses, full-size buses. They must be currently in operation, and they must be destroyed. So we had to think carefully about which buses we wanted to submit to the program because they will come out of our fleet. In exchange for that, 2017 or newer, what we're actually proposing to you will be 2020 model buses. That's where we are in the bid cycles at this point. They have to be similar size and purpose for the ones that are being replaced. We follow our normal procurement processes. This is a rebate program, so the district will be obligated to purchase the 3 buses outright, but then DNR has told us that within 30 days they will refund us back the amount for the grant. The key to all this is it cannot expand the fleet. So for every bus that we purchase, we must take one and permanently disable it. Permanently disabling the buses. And so I put this one in here because this is legitimately what has to happen. The bus has to be cut in half, at least from the frame, and the engine has to have a hole knocked in it. That's the only way they accept that the bus has been permanently disabled. So our timeline, hopefully with your approval tonight, we'll start our bid process and get those back in. The purchase order due by January 31st is a grant deadline. Our hopes would be to have our purchase order out by January 1 to try to stay about 30 days ahead of that timeline. Right now, school buses are on a 12 to 14 week turnaround. So it'll be April, probably before we would receive any buses. Scheduled demolition of our replacement buses. We are using the buses that we're proposing to demo, so we would probably continue using those through the end of the school year. That would avoid confusion, not have to renumber, those kind of things. So as soon as school is out, we'll have that scheduled so we can get those demoed. We have to take pictures of the demolition, take pictures of the engine blocks, the code numbers, the tags, all those things to submit with our paperwork for documentation. Yeah, right. Bash the bus kind of thing. Yeah.
What's it gonna cost to demo a bus?
We should be able to scrap those, and we'll actually get a little bit of funds back. That fund does have to go, those funds have to be shown on our books of going to them.
For getting rid of them and not
Because
being
it's,
able to.
because it's emissions control, and so the only way to guarantee that those aren't putting out bad emissions is to take them off the road.
So we would typically surplus buses, sell them for $500 to $1,500 on gov deals. And we would be buying 3 to 5 buses a year per the normal cycle, so we're just a little ahead of that.
Good.
That's probably what you're gonna say next.
That's
on the
what I was
slide,
gonna say
yeah.
next.
So
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
apologize.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
As soon as I said that, I said, why are you talking? Just let him finish.
It's okay. You feel free.
Just forget it.
So in summary, so we have been approved for the 3 replacement buses. The award is for 25% of the total cost, up to a maximum of $22,000 per bus. That should not be an issue. The buses we've been buying will fall right in that price range. And as Dr. Zales was mentioning, while this is currently outside of our budget for this year, it would be a reasonable thing to take advantage of the grant funds in preparation for next year. It would just be cost savings to the district. So, any questions about that?
Do we have other buses that would qualify if they repeat this next year?
So in 3 was the maximum, and in getting the award this year, we are ineligible next year.
Okay.
So I don't know beyond that. That's as far as they've gone with it.
So it's a 25% coupon.
It's a coupon. That's exactly right.
The biomass boiler? One of the great failures of my life. Thank you for bringing that up.
I think it was a success. We don't have one.
Those are some long and informative meetings there. Yeah. Okay, anybody want to, you feel like their motion to purchase these 3 new buses and get that grant money? The motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Okay, the motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, thank you for that information. Thank you. Okay, committee appointment. The board member will be selected to sit on the committee to select the new student representative.
My goodness,
I can't believe it's been that long
Me,
already.
I
Has it
can't
gone
either.
fast to you, Dan?
It really has. Yeah.
So, is there a board member that'd like to volunteer for that?
I will. I've done it before, so if
Okay,
somebody else
okay.
wants to, it's
Carla has just volunteered. So I guess anyone else want to volunteer? Okay, all right. Okay, then we need a motion to have Carla be our representative on that.
Motion Carla represent us to select the new student member of the board.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you, Carla, for volunteering for that. Okay, Board of Education future issues. Our December board meeting is December 13th. And then our January meetings have been scheduled for January 3rd and January 17th. Anybody all good with that? Okay. Okay, now we're to old business, and we get to have some more information on these school improvement plans. School improvement plan goals for each school will be reviewed by the building principal, and it looks like we are starting with Mr. Fridley from Mark Twain, who recently had a birthday.
Yeah, happy belated birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, I truly appreciate you letting me postpone my presentation to attend a trip with my wife. Yes, I did turn 50, so I don't know if that's for some, that's not a big deal, but for me, it was a pretty big deal. I
You
enjoyed
are a
it.
young
So, yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. This is my seventh year presenting a school improvement plan for Mark Twain Elementary. It's hard to believe, but time does fly. Started my tenure at Mark Twain Elementary with a school that was a kindergarten through fourth grade. We had anywhere from 460 to 525 to all the way up to 620 students at one time. Now we are a pre-K through third grade building. This is our second year with pre-K in our building, and it's an amazing sight to see those students. I want to reiterate once again how important that's been for our kindergarten classes. I've watched those students. This is their second year in our building, and I've watched those students make their progress through our building, and it's great to see the growth in those kids. So that did not happen without the support of the community, and it continues to happen with the support of our community. So I want to say thank you as we're starting my presentation this evening. Hopefully I don't mess up the, there we go, all right. First of all, I'd like to explain how we put together our school improvement plan. Our school improvement plan in the past has been an all-faculty meeting where we've taken all four of our, we've taken four different goals and broken them into groups and had the groups put together the plans, the goals for the year. This year we did a little bit differently, and I've presented to you just the goals that will be to the board members, each of you, the goals that will be presented on our website as well as the quote-unquote placemat. But I wanted to talk real quickly about last year's goals. In the process, it's important to talk about how we put them together. We look at several things when we put together our school improvement plan. The first and foremost is looking at the school's school improvement plan to make sure that we support the needs of the district. Student performance on assessments, of course, is a key component. And then finally, surveys. We do surveys throughout the year, whether it's a beginning of the year survey at first quarter conferences, a survey that questions parents at third quarter conferences, or just a PTO survey. We want to know what our parents and our patrons feel we need to work on, and also what's going well. So what needs work and what's going well. So those are the components that we use as we put together our school improvement plan. And I've shared up there that we will share this. The pages that I've given you will actually be on our website for parents to look over, and hopefully the goals are written in such a way that if you're not an educator, you can still understand them. So looking back to last year's goals, I did not provide you with a copy of this, but I did want to go over this real quick because I think it is important to talk about how we did with last year's goals. The first goal focused on improving student performance in math and English language arts. Our goals for many years were written pretty similar. We changed a few things, changed several of the tools that we used. Every part of the first goal was measurable and continues to be a part of our school. But as you'll see this year, we've drilled down a little bit more specifically to each one of our professional or PLC teams. So I'll go through that. At the bottom, we talk about Mark Twain will improve citizenship skills. That's a key component of our positive behavior supports team. And you can see each one of our goals was met. Building-wide attendance will be 92% of all students will have an overall attendance rate of 90% for the year. Parent and child surveys will be utilized. We did that as well. Like I said, that's an important component. And with social media, we're getting more feedback through the from families, whether we send it out via Google Doc or we allow families to sit with an iPad while they're waiting on their teacher for third quarter conferences. It works really well. Get a lot of feedback that way. And then 90% of each homeroom class will attend a quarterly reward celebration. We did everything from dunk tank to pie in the face to try to help motivate students to continue to be good citizens, and it seems to work. And then another common theme that you continue to hear in our buildings is Class Dojo. Well, we use the Class Dojo data to look at both the positives and where some problems are with students. And so we did use Class Dojo reports, but we use it in our, and there's an acronym up there I want to explain it, Student Assistance Team Referrals. We can look at the data from a student's Class Dojo report and determine is there a specific day of the week or a specific time that this student is having trouble and try to help mitigate some of the problems that the person has by looking at, what's causing this? Is the student eating enough lunch, or, is he showing up late to school? Those are things that we've done. So those were components we had in place last year, and they've worked really well. The next dealt with in technology. Mark Twain Elementary will enhance instruction and communication through the use of technology. This is an area we're going to focus on, and I'll talk more specifically about this. The goals up there were 100% of all staff will be required to will complete their required technology. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied today. And that always is met. I make sure of that. We get the spreadsheet that says who hasn't gone, and I make sure that they go. The number of hours each educator spends on technology training was also met. And formal and informal observation and data will be tracked with regard to implementation of technology. And that's something that we have done, and I do, through observations and also through evaluation. I want to make sure that people are using the tools that we are spending money to implement in the classroom. And then finally, Mark Twain will identify, analyze data, and provide interventions for at-risk students. We have, over the last 7 years, we've worked very diligently to find ways to help students who were struggling, but also find ways to help students that are doing well. If you're a student who is doing well, you need to have an opportunity to do something to extend your learning. But for students who's falling behind, we need to find ways to help you as well. So the changes that we've made in our student assistance team and our response to intervention team have been crucial to that. So those are last year's goals. I think it's important to reiterate whether or not we met them and to talk about them. We've already talked as a faculty and staff about how well we did. Many of these things will still be going on. They will not necessarily be written in our goals, but they're still part of the culture at Mark Twain Elementary. So this is the part that I sent to you, that this is the cover page that will be on the website as parents are able to look at this. So from this page on, this will be available on our website. So the first goal, this goal was written, each of our teams has written a goal that they will work on throughout the year. We have our 4 teams. We'll start with the student assistance team. This team, they work diligently to develop interventions and find solutions for students that are struggling, and also for students that are maybe doing well, that we need to find a way to help them as well. If you're on the student assistance team, you spend a lot of time talking about students. You look at data points, everything from how well they're reading to math performance to behavior and attendance. We try to figure out ways to help students throughout our building. We look at all types of data, and we understand the importance of trying to find ways to move students forward. Ultimately, our goal is to allow students to show growth at their level. That's what it's about. So the student assistance team will focus on the following goals, and you can see they work on promoting a healthy and positive and supported environment for students. They assist students in dealing with at-risk behaviors. So we have interventions in place there, everything from our school therapist to our counselor who works with them. We align resources to increase academic and behavioral achievements. So we look at what we're doing and what's working and what's not, and try to improve. Essential links to social and state services. We're not afraid to help a family out. If we need to figure out a way to help them, we try to find ways to do that. And then we provide interventions for attendance, academics, behavior, and school health. So there are ways that we reach out to students above and beyond what you would say is the book work that we do in our school. We spend a lot of time in this team collecting data, talking about students, and not just collecting data, but looking at it and determining whether or not we found success with a student. I think it's important when you can find a student in kindergarten who is struggling, and by the time they leave 3rd grade, you say, we found success with this student. So that team has done a lot of work to revamp how they work. The next team that wrote the next goal is the positive behavior support team. If you come into our building, you will see many components of positive behavior supports. We find ways to motivate students to do the right thing, and we find ways to help them if they're not. So we help parents also understand how we're keeping those students accountable for their behavior through the use of Class Dojo and other components as well. The parent component in positive behavior is crucial. If we have parents on board, we get the support that we need, and oftentimes we can figure out ways. I'll never forget last year, I had a young man that was a kindergartner who was struggling with behavior. He had a hard time. And I called his dad in, and I showed him a list of all the times that he was getting in trouble and having difficulty in classes. We'd been in contact with him, but then I showed him a comparison between his student, a kindergartner, and the other kindergarten students, and he said, my son is getting in way more trouble in specials classes than anyone else. I said, yes, he has the most discipline referrals from specials in our entire building of all the students. And it really hit home to him. And he connected with his son to try to help him out. And that's what I'm talking about, is giving families an opportunity to help support their students. So this team works very diligently to support positive behaviors in our building, and it's working well. The next team is the team that I am the facilitator for. It is a building leadership team. One of the components we found through the use of our survey was that technology is an important component of our school, but finding ways to make sure that every student knows what he or she needs to know before he gets to the next grade level is something we've talked about. So this year we're writing some goals that we believe every student should be able to know or do by the end of the school year so they're ready for the next grade. So for example, our first grade teachers will talk to kindergarten and say, I would really like it if you're a kindergarten student, if you could teach them how to do X, Y, Z by the end of the year. That way when we start the year in first grade, they're ready to go. So we're doing this up and down, and we're actually going to work with Jeannie Strain to see that. I know that there are some goals that are being written district-wide for grade levels. But I think it's important that Mark Twain recognized the data that we collected on our surveys that said from teachers that not everyone is ready for the technology when they come to my grade level. Could you please help them with this? That was a teacher-driven goal. Our team will work on that this year. We'll look at what truly is expected of a student, and should we change some of the things that we're doing in order to make sure that kids are ready for the next one. So I'm looking forward to our team working together to reach this goal. And then finally, the response to intervention team. The response to intervention team, this team centers around interventions for students. You know, I equate this to one thing. When I started my career in education, response to intervention was a great acronym, RTI, that people talked about, and there was a lot of conversation about how you could implement. But one of the greatest analogies I ever saw was a conversation I had with a gentleman who talked about the model of presenting at the front of a classroom and then expecting that every student will get it. And we talk a lot about small groups at Mark Twain, and it's one of the things that I'm working very diligently this year to make sure that we have going on in different grade levels, all the way from kindergarten, or pre-K even, all the way up to third grade, is having that individualized instruction. I remember back to this analogy of asking every person in the room to stand just anywhere in the room, and then telling each one of them that they had exactly 6 steps to make it out the door. And some people were right next to the door and they could make it. And some people were way up there. There was no way, no matter how big of steps they took, they weren't going to make it. And equating that to learning, thinking about every student starts at one place and needs to get, we know the end result, what we're looking for, but how are we going to get them from this place in the room to that doorway? So we've spent a lot of time on our response to intervention model. Last year we changed it, and people went back and have talked about how it wasn't effective. It didn't work to the extent to which we wanted it to work. So we're back to the model that we had before. I really appreciate the fact that teachers and staff are working hard to figure out ways to meet the needs of our students and to figure out ways to help students find growth in what they're doing. We're not all going to be A+ students, but we all need a hand up at times, and that's the thing that we're trying to do with our response to intervention team. So as you can see, our PLC teams have worked very diligently this year to continue to find ways to meet the needs of students. I appreciate the fact that the goals were written by the teams because they are the ones who will invest the time to make sure that they're met. Not that we didn't do it correctly before, but having an individual who's invested in a goal that they've written collaboratively with their group is an important component. And then finally on the placemat, you'll see the placemat. It's a great tool for families to see how we support the district's school improvement plan as well, and the components that we use. These are key components. I can tell you there are many more things that we do in our building to support what the district values, and we value as well. But this is an important way for you to look at how we support the district as well. I appreciate your time tonight, and I'm willing to answer any questions anyone might have.
Any questions? Mr. Fridley, looks like you have some great things going on.
I believe we do. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board.
Okay, next we have Rolla Junior High, Dr. Fulton and Mr. Storms coming down.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And
Your
since we
birthday's the same day as Mr. Fridley's, by the way, right?
No, it's really, well, it was this year in our admin meeting. It's really close, but Jane has a birthday coming up on Saturday.
Thank you, Dr.
You're very
Fulton.
welcome. Yeah, you're very welcome.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the only one thrown under the bus here. No, we celebrated Mr. Fridley's milestone birthday last week, so we had a good time with that. And we did. We really did. Mhm. Yes, we did. It was good. So we wanted to make it special for you. You did. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. So welcome to our Raleigh Junior High plan. We'll try and go through this as quickly and painlessly for you as we can. And you're going to see the same format, but I kind of like our bulldog and our colors. So the first thing that we have for you, will you pass out those handouts? And this is hard to see, but everything is color-coded. Mr. Storms will get you a copy. Is our placemat from 1718. Our school works together in every department to create a plan, and I have taken that plan and organized it as usual within the district plan. So everything that's color-coded in blue, we have met, but it's something we're going to continue doing. Everything in black is met and will be going away or change its face for the next plan, and everything in red is something that we didn't meet, and we'll be addressing those things. Whenever I look at this plan from last year, one of the things that we have done very well at doing over the last few years is increasing our parent engagement involvement. We have a parent Facebook page that not only does Mrs. Sperry as our leader operate, I also moderate as well. But we try to understand that parents can't come to everything that we have. So when we have important events, we stream them live. We stream live this year and last year. Our Veterans Day Assembly will stream live some of our meetings. I will stream live from our upcoming school dance that the parents are doing, just so parents can see what we're doing. And every now and then when I get a free evening, I will sit down and finally upload all of the pictures off my phone and start putting them out there for parents to see, and they seem to like that. Our Veterans Day Assembly was viewed over 200 times by parents who would never have the chance to come into our building, and I think that's important for them to see the good things that we do. And so one of the other things that we have done very well with is conducting our parent and student surveys, and all of that information goes into the creation of this plan at all levels. And whenever we talk about our highly qualified staff, one of the things that we are blessed to have Christopher and Jeannie housed in our building, but with Miss Strain and Mrs. Spurgeon, they are always there to support our staff. If they call, they're there to help them integrate the technology, because we are blessed to have met our goal in 3, that we have a Chromebook cart, says laptop cart, but we got rid of those, and iPad carts in every core classroom at the current time. And I'll go over those numbers with you in just a little bit. One of the things that we would like to continue to strive for that we did not meet was to put a co-teaching, or CWC, which is a class within a class teacher in every core class when we are missing history. And just due to numbers and different demands on us by student needs, we weren't able to meet that. But that's still something we'll strive for, but we did not meet that last year. And if you go over to student performance, one of the things that Mr. Storms will be talking about is our efforts with restorative practices. That was something we implemented last year. We have to remember that last year in our transition was brand new. All of our students were new to us, and half of our staff. So we're still working to rebuild that culture. We essentially became a new school. So we didn't meet it, and that's not bad, but it's something we're going to continue to work on. And so as in governments where we attend professional development, one of the things that Mr. Storms and I do is attend professional development conferences to work on our leadership skills. And as being part of the leadership for our South Central Principals Association, that has helped me in creating connections and getting better ideas. I also attend a middle school group at least every other month of just middle school principals that meet in Sullivan. So that's something we have done throughout last year. So as we go in now, we're going to go into 2018 and 19. And our first goal that our teams have come up with, you are given 2 sheets of paper. One of them is a chart, and the other one is the placemat. But go to the chart, because all of those numbers are too much to put here for everyone to understand. But we have one large goal for our building, and that is to improve the reading capacity and skills of every student in our school. How are we going to measure that? That is going to be measured through the NWEA/MAP test, and that is our Northwest Educational Association measurement of academic progress. And the MAP does not stand for our Missouri assessment. It is that measure of academic progress test that we are taking now. And so we are going to use those scores, which is called a RIT score. And a RIT score stands for a Roush unit, which is a measurement scale developed to simply for the interpretation of a test score. It is a nationally normed score, so we can know how our students will do compared to every student in the district as well as their peers of their same age. So what you see on that sheet that was too big to put there but on the table is the RIT scores broken down by language arts, reading, math, and science. We gave the test in those areas. We piloted the science assessment. Because of the way the data was uploaded, I was also then to break the data down for you and for us into areas of special education. So we will use those, and those are the scores that every teacher will look at when we gauge our progress towards next year's school improvement plan. Actually, we'll know how we did in May whenever we take our final test, because we will do this assessment 3 times a year. So I wanted you to see that, but our big goal that we are working on, that we have worked on through August, September, and October, and November, has been working on reading. Our teachers have gone through instruction with some of our own teachers, as well as Liz Condre from the South Central Regional Professional Development Center, to learn instructional strategies that they can implement everywhere. We have reading strategies being implemented in SHOP, in Gateway to Technology, in PE, all sorts of classes. And so our teachers they decided this together, and they have embraced it, and they're running forward with it. So we're excited to see the progress and the goals that we're hoping to make. But overall, we want to improve our score 3 points as compared from fall to spring. And actually, that's September to May. That's what we're going to do. Yes, sir.
So, point of clarification.
Yes.
Why are the target points to increase, not all 3? Help me understand that.
It will be. So on that sheet of paper, you have our scores for fall. And then there is a projected score. So we are able to receive a projected score right now stating that where kids scored at this moment, that by the end of the spring, through all of the work that our teachers do, they should end up at this point at the end of the year. I took those, found the report, averaged them out, and it comes up, it is nationally normed. It goes right along with the chart that Mr. Hounsome did, because while he likes numbers, I do too, even though I was a history teacher. So I ran them just so I would understand them. And those are actually nationally normed scores and percentages of increases that our students should be at the beginning and at the end of the year. Okay. So that sheet will be kept for me to track our progress in January and then again in May, and then I can decide whether or not we have completed or met the goals at that time. Does that make sense to you? Okay. And so we have a lot of other goals within that, but that is the biggest one. We will always look at our MAP scores and the NWEA in every area that we are able to. When we go into Goal 2, teachers will increase their technology integration skills by attending the Rolla Public Schools technology training as evidenced during teacher evaluations, district documentation of technology professional development, and self-assessment. We now have everyone trained in technology, but technology changes so fast that technology training needs to occur on a continual basis. So we have teachers that we put in training based upon what we do just throughout the district, but then our teams usually want more, so they get specific individualized help with Mrs. Spurgeon and Ms. Strain whenever we need it, and we dedicate professional development dollars to that. We also, I think the biggest thing that we do there is, since we met having all of our devices within our classrooms, my goal is now to maintain all of the technology resources that we have within our core classrooms. Not just purchase them, but now maintain. We've actually achieved that. This is our success story. And I've left 3 years here for you because in the beginning we had a lot of iPads, not very conducive to a lot of typing within Google. But we do hold 2 sets of iPads. About 66 are still in the building at this time. We have transitioned from laptops, as you see there, over the years to one, and it is a checkout that we use, to the addition of Chromebooks throughout our building. So we have 692 Chromebooks with about 610 students at this current time. And so you see a total mobile devices of 759. The desktop devices available for students, we still have a computer lab and we still have individual sets of computers for students to use within classrooms.
The checkout laptop, is that students check it out or
Teachers.
Teachers check it out?
Now, I have an individual Chromebook in my office that if a parent comes to me and says, I had one say, our computer is down due to a virus, they need to do some work, I unplug my personal Chromebook and hand it to them and say, use it because they get to log on. I mean, nothing's on there. So sometimes mine goes home. My goal is, as I'm looking into right now, finding one to put in the guidance office for checkout measures for kids. One won't be enough, but it's a start. Goal 3, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Storms.
Thank you, Dr. Fulton. In Goal 3, I want to be talking about the goal of improve the climate and culture as evidenced in the 10% reduction of discipline incidents and an increase positive responses in teacher, parent, and student survey data. This is our year number 2 of RJH version 7.8, and it seems to be a lot smoother this year, and a lot of things which we for the first year that we didn't quite anticipate. I don't know, those of you that have a real good memory might remember me telling you about the fact that all the 7th grade kids wanted to run to lunch last year on the first day of school. So we've been able to anticipate and adjust a lot of those, which is really helping. But one of the things we want to do is, because we're not where we want to be and we're not met, our goal is we want to reduce our discipline numbers by 10%. We want to try to affect the culture more positively. So the ways that we have chosen to do this, and we have selected several things to help us with this. The first one is something which I may have mentioned to you some last year, which is the use of restorative practices. And some of you have probably heard of that, some of you have not, so I wanted to make sure I expanded on that. Restorative practices it's a whole school relational approach to building school climate and addressing student behavior. It fosters belonging over exclusion, and it's become very popular on the East Coast, West Coast, and it's also gotten quite large in Texas. Lots of schools have, like for example, Oakland Public Schools, several others have drastically increased their student success rates and et cetera, because there's lots less exclusion and problems. So we have adopted some restorative practices, and we're continuing to use those. Right now our teachers use restorative questions in class to resolve issues related to incidents, or whether it be interactions with other kids. And we have put into place this year a restorative piece that if a student is struggling in the classroom and they're not staying on task, and the teacher has gone through the steps of redirecting them and refining to them what they should be doing, then they can give them a Chromebook, let them reflect in this restorative piece, and we're trying to gather some data for us that should be useful and be more proactive at avoiding classroom disruptions and problems that lead to relationship issues, which that is the key thing with restorative practices, is to teach kids how to keep working relationships and how to respect each other better. We also still have our pyramid of intervention. I think most of you are familiar with that, so we didn't put that in the handout this time. We had one for Dr. Creedy if he'd been here, because I didn't know if he was familiar with that. But we have that also to help with our students in our school environment to respond to the needs of various students and keep the culture and the environment positive. Dr. Fulton is going to throw in just a little bit about how parent involvement is continuing to be an engagement priority.
One of the things we know at our level in version 7.8, as you said, is that kids push parents away, and we want parents in the building. So we are working hard every day to not only involve them, but to engage them. One of the things at Rolla Junior High that we're awfully proud of is when we rolled out our online registration, 70% of our parents registered online, which tells me 70% of parents will now check the parent portal. Our parent-teacher conference numbers we had 53% show up, but many, whenever we call them, well, I just checked the grades on the portal. So I wish I was able to pull those numbers to actually see how much parents are engaging with that medium and that way, because that is also now reflective of our technology. You know, they don't necessarily have to show up to see us, and then they communicate with teachers via email. So that has been a really good tool for us. I was talking with a parent the other day, and she says, well, I checked the portal. She says, but I don't know how to use that Google thing. And I said, well, we have a meeting Monday at noon. And during her lunchtime, she's coming in to get a one-on-one tutorial about how Google works in Google Classroom. So I think we will be hosting probably in March another technology night, and we'll invite Mrs. Spurgeon and Ms. Strain in to do a technology refresher with our parents regarding Google and those types of things. But we have a meeting every month, and this coming month happens to be our dance. It is December 8th. If you want to see about 400 kids dressed up, you're welcome to come and chaperone with us. It is 6 to 8 on Saturday night, December 8th. So, but that's something we're going to continue to strive for as we go through. And one of the things Mr. Storms is going to tell you about that I'd like to brag on for a minute is Beth Huff is a principal at Fulton Middle School. She is a Rolla grad. She was tweeting out her home visits with kids. And that's something we started this year and Mr. Storms had arranged, and I'll let him finish it up, but I want to say thank you to him for doing that, because that's helped with our relationship piece with parents and students as well, as far as in that parental engagement involvement.
Yeah, I will tell you a little bit about those home visits. First, before I go there, I wanted to touch on student clubs and activities. This year, one of the things that we felt like we needed to do is to add more for the new version of RJH. And so we are starting Beta Club, which is a service club, and we're also starting National Junior Honor Society. And so we're trying to find more ways for kids to find a niche, find a way to fit in, because the sense of belonging is a key to success for middle school kids, and along with keeping the parent communication going. So moving on to the home visits, that was a a very enjoyable experience for me. I did some communication with the middle school, and I talked with the administrators and counselors over there, and I wanted to go see some kids that would just be simply at risk of making a good transition to the junior high. And it might be for various reasons. It could be for an ongoing health issue, it could be for family environment, could be for other things, but they helped me with that, and I went out and visited several of those students before school started, and it was a lot of fun. It allowed me to listen to their questions, to meet their family, to already be on a first name basis with them when they come to school, and it has allowed me to start out the school year with transitioning kids, a group of them, which can feel comfortable interacting with me. I check on them each morning. They can share in the cafeteria, and it's been very much a win-win. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. But I have been some places I've never been in the district, and I've seen some things that I've never seen. So it's been very eye-opening. But I look forward to continuing it next year. But it has helped a lot of our students make a connection and see school as more of an important priority for them and themselves. We also continue to investigate and implement a plan for social and emotional learning. Right now, Dr. Fulton is heading up a committee of administrators, and we're investigating ways that we can look at our current alternative program and possibly make recommendations or look at things which would be beneficially added to it or revised in it. And so that is ongoing, and you will hear about that later when that proposal is completed, when that study is completed. And then with the purposeful transition to the junior high, we do what is called the orientation transition day, a week before school starts. And the 7th graders get to come in the morning, and mom and dad get to drop them off and come back and get them after lunch. And it's kind of like a half-day of school where they get to go around the building, they get to familiarize themselves with it, the schedule, the locations, all those stairs, everything, and learn about the departments, learn about the teachers, meet them, various programs. Then they get to have a picnic lunch and get to meet the principals and ask questions. And it's very successful in helping our kids make a good transition, and those first few days go much better. We miss just a few kids, and the rest of them are already aware of lots of the unknowns, the fears, the expectations, which we've been able to clarify and to allow them to explore and ask some questions about. Dr. Fulton, you can click me on to the next page to goal 4. Raise proportional attendance rate, 3%. Attendance has been a goal in the RJH School Improvement Plan as long as I can remember. We reached our goal last year, but we want to continue to reach our goal this year. And some of the ways in which we do that are listed in the bulleted items here. I'm not going to touch on every one of them, but the second one goes back to some of the things which I was mentioning. We're looking for trying to provide more places for a kid to fit in so they can find their niche and they can find something that allows them to create, explore, and belong and connect with RJH. We currently have a teacher that's working with some students that she's invited to work with her after school, and these students just need they need somebody to work with to help them kind of discover themselves and nurture their own self-esteem. But they have been doing some really neat activities, and they actually created those nice little pin-ons, if you were at our Veterans Assembly, were put on all the veterans. And so just one of the little things that we've got several teachers that have identified that they need to look at every kid every day. We have attendance recognition and celebrations. Right now our character team is planning those for the rest of the year. They're looking for various large prizes to go for drawings. If your attendance, if you qualify for the attendance reward celebration, our kids really like and enjoy social events. So one of our things which we commonly do is attendance celebrations during Pride to allow them to have some social time and some technology time. The PE staff has teamed up with me this year and done an excellent job. We started this last spring. We felt like we were really struggling second semester, and I went to Coach Terranova and Coach Ballinger and talked to them, and they were receptive of doing this. And there are two unique individuals in the junior high school. They see every kid every other day. And very few of our other instructional staff sees all the kids in the building. And so they come by once a week, and we make a report, and then they take a look at kids that have recently been absent. They visit with them, try to build relationships with them, and we're now working on our goal with that is to continue to expand that. We believe it's been beneficial, but we're going to go ahead and use Google and create some data and spreadsheets and see how it's helping to address some of our kids that reach 3 days of absence and keep them from moving on up into a larger amount. So then the last thing, we do use attendance contracts. We were for our students that are really struggling and that we're needing to get on the same page with both them and home. We recently did some of those. Dr. Fulton and I did some and utilized that time of being able to get with those parents and meet with them at conferences. And those are very beneficial. They allow us to define, what's in the best interest of the student and the goals and be on the same page with the parent. And hopefully those will continue to help us to reach our goal for attendance. Do you have any questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Fulton.
I will point out that our goal, we are held to a 90% of our kids are here 90% of the time. So when we hit 91.6 and we've made our goal for the last 3 years, I just decided to push it a little bit more. And so this is something that we address in our leadership meetings every month as well. This isn't just Mr. Storms' issue. It's something that we're all dealing with, and all of the teachers are invested in. So, and goal 5, to finish up, this is our governance goal, and this is where Mr. Storms and I work to improve a lot of things. In my survey every year, communication comes in as my lowest area, and I'm really not sure why. We send out Friday notes and we send emails, but I think a lot of that is in the perception of the person that's reading it, but it's something that we're always going to strive to work on. And we also want to continue to communicate not just with our staff, but all stakeholders via social media and phone calls and letters and school messenger and phone calls home. One of the things I've started this year is a positive referral system. So it's really funny when you call a really good kid in and I'm like, you have a referral, and the look of fear gets on their face. And I'm like, let me read it to you. And you read it to them and you see the relief and the smiles, and they're like, hey, do that to my parents too. So we call them and kind of freak them out. But it's a lot of fun, and it actually makes your day when you get to see them smile and you give them a little certificate of awesome. And so that's something we're doing as well. The professional development, we have continued to improve not only the leadership of Mr. Storms and I, but this year we have been increasing the leadership capacity of our leadership team. We have attended some workshops at the RPDC, the Regional Professional Development Center, with John Lewis, to talk about how professional development can improve student achievement. We're going to go through some peer evaluation type things with our staff this year. Data says that if peers evaluate each other and provide feedback, that you will see an increase in student achievement. So we'll be going through that with Mr. Charlie Malum this spring. And so that is something we've been working on, as well as Mr. Storms and I have undergone that training as well. And so these are the things that we're doing to improve ourselves as we go and improve our school. We want to thank you for all the support that you give us every day and what we go through. The last page is the flip chart. This is a placement chart, and flip your page over. You will see that is 18-19. It is significantly different. This one has the boxes on it, so you can see the difference. That is everything that you have just seen aligned to our district school improvement plan. Any questions?
Anyone? Lots going on at the junior high.
Lots going on at the junior high.
Great job.
Thank you.
Great things going on. Wonderful. All right, now we are to Rolla High School. Dr. Pritchett and crew. Hello.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
We are happy to be here. We're going to punt. So I know there's some folks in the audience that are doing some administrative intern stuff or whatever. They're going to see how you just sometimes you got to back up and punt when stuff doesn't go as planned. So we have a guest with us tonight that may or may not talk with you, but she's coming from the volleyball banquet, so we want to get her back. And originally we had scheduled her part to go last, but we're going to switch that. So here in a second, you'll see me flip through a whole bunch of slides, and we'll get to the back part, and then we'll work backwards. So it'll be all right. Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad to hear Tony talk about the bus. Whack-a-bus. I think we've got it planned already. So we're excited to have that at the high school. So thanks for pointing that out. So we are excited to present to you about Rolla High School. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of really good stuff. To condense it down into 10 or 15 minutes, we're just going to give you a quick snapshot tonight because there's just so much stuff that we'd love to share with you. I put in front of you before you arrived tonight a couple of things, and Josh will talk about one of them. The other one is just a copy of our goal sheet, and so it's a front and back copy. It says Rolla High School on the top. We're going to refer to some of those things tonight, but we're not going to read to you all of them just for the sake of time. We're also going to, as we proceed through the presentation tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about how Matt did it. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about last year and just kind of show you some of the things we were able to meet and even some of the things we weren't able to meet. And then talk about this year as well and kind of see how that transition goes. So that's a little bit of the format of how you'll see on the slides. I do want to mention, as you've heard, how the goals are set at the high school. There's a couple of things we do. One, we take all of our teachers, divide them into groups. We review all the goals from last year and then decide as a group collectively those groups decide, hey, these are the things we need to focus on, these are the things we met, these are the things we need to get rid of, these are the things that are just embedded in our culture now, and they're not really a goal or a strategy, it's just something we do, so we get those out. From there, it goes to our leadership team, and the leadership team takes all the suggestions from the groups, pairs them down, puts like things with like things, and we wordsmith it. And from there, that's what the document that you have in front of you. So that gives you a little bit of a background of how the goals have come about. It's not just from us, it's from the staff and what they feel like. The second way that some of these things that you'll hear tonight come about are from our survey, and you heard that mentioned a couple times. The survey, one of the things that we pulled this year from the survey, and it was a positive thing, but a lot of the survey talked about the positive culture at the high school. And if you come to the high school, we hope that you experience that. We hope that students, when they come, parents, when they come or when they call, even if they've got a gripe, they're going to get a positive experience of some sort. So that was a plus. However, one of the things that as a staff collectively and coming from the survey is that we don't want to just have a positive culture. We also want to have academic integrity. And so while, yeah, kids like to come to the high school, and we want that, we want them to have fun, we want to maintain the academic standards that we set and that we know that are important. And so from that survey, you'll see that embedded in what we're going to talk about tonight. So you'll see that culture piece, you'll see a little bit of that academic piece, and it'll kind of give you just a snapshot of where we are. So I'm going to fast forward real quick here. It's actually going to kind of work out good because we were going to use our goals in reverse order, and now we're going to do them in somewhat numeric order. So I'll let Josh talk a little bit about goal 1 from last year.
All right, so goal 1 last year, we always have had the attendance goal, and last year we decided that attendance should really fall under the full positive school climate. That if we have a positive school climate, that attendance should kind of fall in that. So we want to encourage all of our students to be here 90% of the time. And that was one of our goals from last year. It'll be continue to be a goal. But this is just some of the data from the last 3 years, and we have met that the last 3 years. So obviously that's a good thing. We want to continue that. So far this year, it has looked like we're on track to do that, but just something that always is in the forefront of our minds. The second and third part of the goal from last year, the one was to increase counselor support groups. Going into last year, we only had one group, and that was a grief group. Throughout the year last year, we added 3 more. So we had grief, we have a stress less for stress and anxiety kids, we have a study skills group, and then we have a group for family change. Those were all added last year. This year, with the help of Jamie and Prevention Consultants, we've added a group for students that we have suspended for drug or alcohol things, and they have a group that they meet also just to give them a little support. In the past, we've suspended them, and we want to make sure we keep track of them to kind of see how we can help them going forward. Next thing last year we wanted to continue to look for ways to increase student involvement. We kind of had a big presentation on that last year. That's something we're proud of how involved our students are. There's a lot of things that we are doing. We're always looking to add new clubs, get kids involved in sports. Obviously we know if kids are involved in things, they're going to be more successful. This year one of the cool clubs that's been added is it's a Bulldog Adventure Club. It's an outdoor activity club. Just a couple weeks ago they went to Hahatonka and hiked. It was like 32 degrees. I don't think I would have, but they're braver than I am. So going on to this year, we kind of looked at what we met last year, went towards this year with what new goals we could have. Again, we're going to try and encourage our students to be here 90% of the time. That'll be there just as long as we have students. We want them here. Investigate behavior management opportunities. We've recently kind of looked at everything we're doing consequence-wise and seen if it's best for the student, if it's changing the behavior, if it's making the student learn from the behavior, and if we're really just messing the student's career up too much also. So we've looked at from Saturday school to OSS. Just yesterday we had a conference call with an administrator from Springfield that they went away from all outside of school consequences. So we talked, because they used to have a Friday school after school that's similar to our Saturday school. So we're even looking at some opportunities this spring to maybe go away from Saturday school. It kind of just piles on students sometimes that we don't know that it's really the best thing for them. So we're really just kind of trying to look and see what's best for the kid. Obviously they need a consequence, but we need to not mess up their career with the consequence. So I go back to that. On top of that, we're also, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, if you remember what Mr. Storm said, Dr. Fulton, they're all talking about the alternative program. We just asked them is it meeting the needs of our district? And we haven't refreshed it for a while, so let's just take a step back and look at holistically, consequence-wise, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And does this program meet our needs? So somewhere down the line, you will hear a full presentation on some recommendations to refresh or refine the alternative program, but a lot of it has to do with culture and attitude and if we just keep doing the same thing, getting the same results, will continue to frustrate us. So that's
our students have changed, the community's changed since all that stuff was created, really. And we've also, along with the junior high, looked at different OSS options. Springfield and other districts have what they call ASLs, alternative suspension locations, where kids that are suspended can still come to school at a different location, receive credit, receive attendance credit. So they're out of the building. Obviously, they're serving their consequence, but we're still educating them. So we're kind of looking at some options for that, too. The last piece of Goal 1 that we're wanting to hit on this year, and it was one we started last year, was to continue to build community and alumni engagement. Obviously, we started the Alumni Association last year. We have a ton of alumni in the community. It's been a pretty awesome thing that we've got off the ground, and we're just continuing to build that. We're going to get a little more detailed into that here in the next few slides. The Alumni Association last summer, at the beginning of the summer, we were at about 1,100 people. We're at 1,600 members now, and it's pretty cool just to see where everybody is from. It's all different ages. They're everywhere across the country. And we do a newsletter through email once a month to them. We also create a Facebook page just this fall that we're up to 800 followers that really has gotten a lot of traction. Veterans Day, we sent out a Facebook deal asking maybe there's a veteran to send a picture. And we got quite a bit of pictures. It said it reached 3,000 people. So it was really cool just to see some of the former students that had served or were currently serving. And that's something we're continuing to do. The Parents of the Alumni Association, something that we started this summer. We're going to look to push it a lot more this spring with our parents that are going out. We're hoping over the next 4 years we can get a pretty good database underneath the Alumni Association of our parents of alums that this spring we'll hit the parents that are leaving, and then we'll do that the next few years to get quite a bit there. Obviously, as we've talked in the past, the parents are important too. We want them to stay involved in our school, even if they don't have kids still. Hall of Fame is something we're doing. February 15th is going to be our first induction of the Hall of Fame. We've located a spot that we're going to do it outside the gym, is where the actual location of the Hall of Fame is going to be. Nominees are ending November 30th, and we have a committee together that's going to select 5 to 10 for our first one. We're going to do that in December. We're looking to have a pretty cool banquet over the junior high. The cool thing about this is you're going to hear another thing. Our leadership class is going to help us with this. They're going to put on the banquet with the help of us, and so we're excited about that. It's something we look to hopefully sustain over quite a while. Lastly, the coolest part about the Alumni Association is the projects that we've kind of taken on. Last year we had a plan of an art gallery. We were lucky enough to receive a donor last spring to fund all of the art gallery, so we have started on that. Here's the picture of that. The coolest part about these projects, and again, we can't say enough about the guys over at RTI and RTC, is just the collaboration with our school and RTI and RTC. It starts with our drafting program. We have a student here, Bailey Graydon, from the drafting program. We're going to get to her in a minute. They kind of come up with the schematics of what we want. We tell them, hey, this is what we want. Then they take that to the construction trades program. They kind of tell us what it might cost. And then now we're to the point that we got the funding for the art gallery. This is down in the first floor hallway, kind of by the locker rooms. Now that is our masonry class coming over, tearing out bricks. They made quite a mess, set off the fire alarm, but that's okay. We got their attention. They might recruit a few more students. But they're doing the construction of it. I mean, it is completely by the students. It's funded by a former student, and it's something that will help our students. So it's pretty cool. We hope that to be done this spring. So the next part that we're looking to do is to redo our library. So before I get too far into that, I'm kind of going to show you where we've come, why we've gotten there. This doesn't completely have to do with the library, but it's a really cool picture that kind of shows you how far we've come. This is 10th Street in Holloway. The house on the left, I just confirmed with Mr. Fridley, who lives right by it, that is still the same house there at 10th and Holloway, the white house on the corner. You can see the little white path is Holloway, so That'd be the gazebo, the rotary gazebo would be right across the road there with the baseball field on the left. The big building there you see in the middle is the old high school, the original high school there by our Circle Drive, or in our Circle Drive, basically. This photo was taken in 1926. So that, again, it show you how far we've come with our building. I went the wrong way. This here is our original library when our building was built in 1954. This is actually Ryan Hickerson's classroom right now, right outside the activities office. It was housed in there from 1954 until about 1960. Then that became offices between the principals and counselors' offices. Going back to this picture real quick, something we're also doing with the Alumni Association, Jaron Hicks, who is up in the booth up there, is putting together he's putting together a historical timeline kind of video tour of the high school. Ginger Priest and Sergeant Rapier walked through the building with he and I about a month ago and kind of get some history of what used to be where. So we're working on that we're going to put out to the alumni, that people that haven't been in the building in so long, they'd like to see what it looks like now. We're hoping to do that to all the buildings throughout the district. So this here is the library from 1960 till they built the three-story addition in 1990. As far as I know, this is over around where Dr. Heaton's room is, the science wing that was added kind of in 1960. This here is the library as it is now, from 1990 till now, so we're about 28 years. And it's been pretty much the same throughout that time. And obviously technology has changed a lot in that time. We have 12 desktops in the library right now, but we want to increase the use of technology up there. And this was actually, I might be stealing from Stephanie a little bit here, but this was one of our technology goals last year that our teachers all met on and worked on, was the library. So takes you to this, and this is where all the attention needs to go to the young lady over here. Bailey Graydon, I promise she would not have to speak, but she may ask questions if you guys had them. We did the work last year with the library, again with our teachers, and they kind of talked and decided what space would work for them. And Miss Kirkbride's our librarian. She kind of took that to see how she would like it. So this fall, I was like, hey, we need to get a sketch together of what we want so we can kind of put it out there, because this is our next project from the art gallery to seek donations from the Alumni Association. That's what the brick money will go to. If we have an alum that just wants to do something to help our students, this is where we'll point them towards. So we wanted to get some sketches of it. So we looked at the drafting class of Megan Bilbro over at RTI and said, hey, let's get a student that might want to get with you and work on that. So we got Bailey, and we definitely hit a home run, because you guys have all these pictures before you. We don't have all these in our presentation, but her and Miss Kirkbride got together and decided kind of what they could do. Bailey did a whole lot of research of what different things are in new libraries, and she came up. Bailey did all these renderings. She gave me drawings. Did you do a video walkthrough, or did you get that? Yes, she did. I'd asked her to do a video walkthrough that maybe we could show, but it was 28 minutes, so it was a little lengthy.
So with Bailey's, as we were looking at this plan, we said, yeah, it's appropriate to show this, because Bailey, what we would tell you is that when Dr. Dare and we get with the district architects and we start to hone in on the library, was part of the long-range facility plan improvements. So it's very appropriate to have this discussion, whether it comes out of district funds or whether it comes out of a community-supported bond issue. It's on the 10-year facility plan, so it's absolutely appropriate to do. And we have plans to have the district architect here to look at this, and we'd like to invite you over to kind of sit in on every discussion we have about improving that facility, whether it leads to a bond issue over a year from now or not. My understanding, you want to do this for a career, so we might as well introduce you to somebody who's worked in our district since 2003 as a district architect. So I assure you that we'll get you out of class and get you back. We'll write you a pass so you're not tardy or counted absent. But I think that'd be a good way to connect your efforts to some real discussion about how it looks in the field. So I'm assuming you'll be all right with that. Okay.
So we don't have any pictures of this. You have all those. Obviously, that's not exactly how it may be, but it definitely is pretty awesome renderings that we can show to the people that want to see what we're wanting to do. at this time, if you guys have any questions for Bailey, you can ask her. We're going to have to we'll let her go back to the volleyball banquet because we pulled her away from that to come over here.
And the footprint of the drawings does not exceed the existing square footage that is already there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the facility plan, you guys can stop me anytime, but there is a option to go into the classrooms next door if we relocate performing arts to another, which allows the library to expand. And so these plans, while just like the facility plan, are not hard and fast, they are concepts to continue to develop. So some of this can be done even absent of outside support, but something that we can do as a district, which we've done in several of our buildings anyway. So very good.
Question I would have for Bailey would be the data that you based your design on or sketches on. That would be important information to transfer to the architect. So your sources of information, what needed to be in there, and that would be great.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, you can tell them. Yeah. You'll have to step up here.
Come up.
Well, we can take the microphone back to you.
You have to violate the promises made to you by Dr. Pritchett.
Can you say that question one more time?
Okay, that's fine. I will. So, how did you arrive at your design? What information did you get from the library and others to decide that this what the library needed to look like in the future?
She took a lot of different pages out of magazines and showed me like different modern seating arrangements or different types of shelving or more of a open concept, and she showed me just pictures of what she wanted from magazines, and I basically went from that. So.
Great.
And designed it. And designed it.
Then
for
designed
what
it
she,
for that.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Great. Put you on the spot. We're glad.
I didn't want to put you on the
Thank you.
So just to wrap that up, because if you heard in there, there's so much collaboration that's going on. And again, we wanted to work with just in the framework of the space that's there right now, so that we had a plan. And if somebody walks through the door and says, "Hey, I've got some extra money I want to throw at the school," we're ready. but keeping in mind the overlay of the facility plan and how that may play into it. But again, as I stood back there and listened to Josh talk, and knowing Bailey, what part, that's what it's really about, is just including those different, our own folks in doing this kind of thing. And if we don't do this through the Alumni Association and it comes through a facilities plan, so much so, I mean, that's fine, but it was still the collaborative work of our students, with the help of our teachers that really brought this to be. So that's the part that, it's kind of like your kids, I'm proud of that from our standpoint of our folks are the ones that are doing it, just like the art gallery that you heard. And that's the scope of really what we're talking about with our kids. And you can tell, and unfortunately the general public watching at home they don't see all the other pictures, but you can tell there's some detail in some of that to where she really put some time into it and some expertise. And so for that, I want to say thanks to her, but also just to keep in mind for all of us that's what it's about. It's about working collaboratively together with the people who have that expertise. So anyway, I just want to thank you for coming over, and we'll move on unless you have other questions.
One other comment. The picture from the Henderson Library brings back old memories of my days in study hall.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Bailey.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see if I can get back in our presentation, since we kind of flip-flop stuff. Closer, closer. Goal 2 is where we're headed. And so goal 2 is kind of our technology goal, increasing technology for classroom instruction. So when I came into the high school last year as an administrator, that was kind of blessed upon me, as I kind of am a math techie person, which I do love doing that. So it's very awesome to see the evolution that we've had even since the 4 years that I've been out of the classroom, of things that are happening technology-wise with our teachers and our students. So last year's goal in 17-18, part of that was to keep increasing the number of devices, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. We don't have a device cart in every single classroom. We're getting there, but not completely. We added 5 last year, and we already have some need for some more. I know that Mr. Heaton and Mr. Reitzman are sharing a cart, but they've already came to me and said, boy, it would be really nice if I can have my own cart, because then I could do this and this and this. And so we are hoping to meet those needs. So that's going to be an ongoing goal. Improve and update the Media Center to include establishing a tech hub. And so you've just heard about updating our Media Center, kind of modernizing it a little bit. But the part I want to focus on is our tech hub. That again came from a vision of our teachers, knowing that they had students that didn't have the opportunity to work on their electronic assignments through Google Classroom and such, because they don't have a device at home. And so we do currently have 3 Chromebooks that come out of the library as a checkout. We have a contract that the parent and student have to sign and all that kind of stuff, but they do check those out with Mrs. Kirkbride so that they're allowed to take those home and do some of their work at home. So that's a good thing that we're actually going to kind of, again, keep adding to, because 3 for 1,300 students is not many. So we're going to hopefully increase that number. Survey teachers to solicit tech training ideas. We did meet this in one of our faculty meetings. We did have our teachers kind of just brainstorm about different ideas of how they would like their tech training structured. We did take those ideas to our instructional facilitators and to the tech department, and they've kind of redesigned how their tech trainings are being held this year. And so we feel that we met that part, and it's always nice to have that input from our teachers to kind of give those that need to know what things that they are needing to help them out. So going into this year, again, we still have the increased technology for classroom instruction, and underneath that, we want to look at explore using in-house experts to enhance computer and technical skills of teachers and staff. Brenda, Jeannie, and Christopher are awesome. They are 3 people to our entire district, though, and so we wanted to kind of try to tap into some of our in-house experts. We have many teachers that are on iTeach. Many of them have been on iTeach for a year and then aren't on it anymore, and then we have those that continue to be on it from year to year. And so how can we use those people to kind of eliminate some of the load off of Brenda and Jeannie and Christopher? So we just actually did this Monday. In our faculty meeting, we ended up having them break into departments and say, give us a list of the things that you are an expert in. And Dr. Pitchett was very good about saying, it's okay to talk about yourself. You don't, you come on out and tell us what you're good about. I want everybody to kind of give us, because it's hard for us to kind of talk about what we're good at doing. And so he wanted to pull that out of our teachers. So I compiled a list of all of that, and we have a pretty extensive list that we're going to share with our staff, so that if they're having trouble on Flippity, they can go and look at who the teacher is that knows how to do that. So we also had asked them to express the needs that they are needing still. If there's, and some of it actually kind of coincided with the expert side, so people were wanting more things on YouTube or Google Classroom or something like that, even more extensive stuff. And so we can kind of go through those needs and be able to kind of foster that throughout the year for those that are experts in that. So that's an exciting piece that we just added this year. Tailored tech, our next one would be tailored tech training specific to the subject grade level and or the experience level. And so this is kind of going back to last year's goal when we surveyed those teachers. This is the restructuring that the tech department has allowed our teachers to kind of choose this year as to, number one, it's a half-day training now for them, where it used to be a full-day training where in the morning was pretty much learning some of those tech ideas, in the afternoon was some professional development time for the departments to kind of work through things together. Kind of that professional development piece we still want to have for our teachers, but it's not necessarily on that same day. Science, I know, took a day of just professional development for them. They were in the lecture hall. I went in kind of a couple times throughout the day, and they're like, man, we got so much stuff done. They were collaborating. They were doing curriculum on a course that they're wanting to bring back next year and stuff. So the professional development within our departments is still happening. It's just not necessarily on that tech training day. But we have also gotten a lot of good feedback about the half days of that tech training. They go in, they hit it hard those half days, then they can, spend half day in their classroom, but then they're using those tools as well within the class. And then again, on goal number 2, we kind of this moved into, since we didn't meet it last year, we're still going to improve and update that media center to include establishing a tech hub. And so the one thing I didn't say about last year was we did get those 3 devices for students that can check out, but the problem that we're still needing to find a solution for is for those students that don't have Wi-Fi at home. So, now we have the device we can give them as long as they have the Wi-Fi at home, but if they don't have that Wi-Fi, how can we service our students with that? So there's many options out there. That's just one of those things that we're just going to kind of search and look for this year.
So what's a tech hub?
Tech hub is basically, it's kind of a term, just basically that you have devices available to be able to allow students to check those out. So one place for that, it's like a checkout. Yeah. Yep.
Do any schools have like evening access to a tech hub? Where they, instead of taking it home, if they don't have Wi-Fi, where they can come in and have access evening hours?
We don't have anything established.
No, I know we don't, but
yeah.
Have you heard of schools doing that?
They're called like an internet cafe.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are somewhere.
They have a night where somebody can come in to school at a certain section.
Volunteers.
Wi-Fi is sectored off differently. Students don't have access to the entire network, but it's quarantined to, there are schools that have that. Yeah.
One of the issues that you run into a little bit with that is transportation.
Sure.
Unfortunately, sometimes if you don't have access to the internet at home, getting either you're working a job or the transportation to get to and from school. So that's another piece we're trying to tackle as to even with our academics, which is sometimes students can't stay after school for whatever reason because they're working or they don't have transportation. So providing the Wi-Fi or figuring that out is a big key. And there are schools that do that. And so we've been talking with them about how they do it, trying to work it into our system.
Part of the tech plan, too, is try to figure out you can get devices to plug in the wall and allow that to happen. Whether Fidelity, Ginger was talking with Fidelity about the capability of doing that. So hopefully that'll evolve. But the percentage of students that have access to internet is pretty high for our district. It was in the 80s, I thought, 80, almost like 87, but it could be off a little.
Well, the final goal for tonight, Sherry and I are going to kind of tag team on it, deals with student performance and student achievement. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have a lot of data to share with you because of the situation the state's in right now with the data. I think it's all Craig's fault, I think. So
he admitted to it.
I'm just telling everyone.
Just telling them it's your fault. That's good. That's what I've been telling people, so we're on the same page. So, but obviously, goal number 3 ties in with academic performance, student achievement. And we want to make all students career college ready. That's our big goal. So a couple of the things last year that we did, one was we were working to increase our offerings, not just AP and dual credit, but our honors classes, classes that we worked with RTI a little bit and some of the things that they were doing, again, just to enhance the opportunities for our students. And we feel like we met that. We did increase it, but obviously, that's something we're not just going to stop and go, okay, well, we've got enough now. We're continually looking and seeing how we can increase those offerings. And again, a lot of that's driven by student desires and student needs. Classes that were offered 10 years ago, some of them aren't offered now because it's just not something students are interested in. And so we are always talking with them and getting information from them about the courses that they're interested in. The other thing that, again, it's kind of met, but it's still ongoing, is just to review our curriculum and analyze the data that we have when we get it. You heard Stephanie talk about, our teachers are doing PD stuff. They're taking days, they're taking half days to do just that. And so we encourage them I'll have a teacher come and kind of apologetically ask me if it's okay if their department can take a half day or a full day to do, and don't be apologetic about that. Just let's put a plan together and let's do it. And we're seeing real success with that. So again, that's something we feel like we did meet, but that's an ongoing thing because we don't want to stop getting better. So those were a couple of the things that we felt like we wanted to share with you tonight about Goal 3. I'll let Sherry talk about this year's goal to start with. Again, it's the same overall goal, but the strategies, we'll touch base on a couple of those.
Get my cheaters on here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the tutoring opportunities that we have available for our students at the high school. We've got quite a buffet reaching those students. You know, we just had a discussion about the needs of our students beyond the school day. We offer a lot of things for our students during the course of the day and also beyond for those that are struggling in various areas. The more informal would be the just one-on-one teacher tutoring as needed with students before and after school. Another offering that we have as well is seminar. It's a structured tutoring session in our math and English departments. English offers it 2 days a week after school, and math offers it 4 days a week. And the students, there's a few different ways that they can come to that. The first way would be for the teacher to put them in seminar and tell them they need to stay after school. The student can also voluntarily go into seminar to get a little extra practice or a little extra help from their teachers. And then the third way would be as if we recognize as administrators, and I'll go into how we catch those in just a moment, that they're struggling with their grades, and we can put them into seminar and have that mandatorily, is mandatorily, or I don't think it is. It's mandatory for them to attend. I think I just made something up there. We also offer, of course, Pride Time is offered 4 days a week as a part of our regular schedule. And during that time, students, every 3 weeks, they rotate, go through what we call Pride Shuffle, where students are placed in classes, or the teacher can request that they come to their class to get extra help in areas where they may be struggling or may be behind and need a little extra time for that. Also, we have some things available during that time that we have a little bit of peer tutoring that happens with our National Honor Society. Mrs. Grisham and Mrs. Spurgeon take some of our NHS kids into the lecture hall, and we service anywhere from 15 to 20 students. They're referred by their teachers to get a little extra help, and those are some really terrific kids in there doing a lot of great work. Data does show that kids learn from their peers sometimes better than they do from teachers. They're kind of, got the kid speak going on. So they kind of can break it down more on their level, maybe have that same experience set, skill set, maybe approaching that and helping them break it down. And Mrs. Grisham's really great at the math. I'll leave her to the math and not a math gal. We also have some activities that some of our student leadership clubs, our Link Crew is scheduling an activity. It's called Cocoa and Cram. And that's where they're going to have a couple of nights after school where they're going to cram for finals and have some cocoa, kind of have a little socialization as well. But giving those students an opportunity, again, for some peer helping there at the high school. Another way that we support our students as far as, not necessarily, it's not tutoring per se, but during the course of that Pride Shuffle, Mr. Smith brings to our attention those students who have 3 or more Fs. Those students are basically divided between the administration and counseling staff, and we basically mentor those students, pretty much ride their tail about getting their work turned in and getting those grades up. And our goal is to, first of all, to basically attack the highest F, the highest percentage that we can bring up to a passing grade, and then move on to the next score. So we have a great deal of success with that at the high school. And I have to say I'm very impressed with the level of support that our teachers at the high school give our students. They're pretty hard pressed to not be successful. There's a lot of layers of support there to keep them from failure. So I'm really pleased to be a part of that. So I'll turn it back over.
One of the things that we heard from teachers and students alike were a few years ago we were mandated to give the ACT during the school day. And for various reasons that came and went. And one of the things that we've discussed, again, back to student achievement is, and this became a goal or a strategy of ours, is to explore ways to get that back in. Now, obviously, with that comes money, and that's obviously a factor. But we don't want that just to be a factor whether we do or don't. And so right now we're going to spend this year, and we've already had some discussion about how we could possibly do that in the future, whether that's a student sign up voluntarily and pay, whether that's we just budget it and do that sort of thing. So that's just one of our strategies. And so more to come on that, but it did rise to the level of discussion, and the teachers particularly felt like, hey, we should put that in there. So we'll be doing that. And then the other thing is, you know, I'm sure Craig has talked with you some about the virtual learning and how that's, you know, the legislature, the legislative bill that was passed last year that said you have to offer online learning. So we're investigating that. We've got kind of some things in place temporarily, but we plan to see how we can explore that and expand that throughout this year. So that will be something else that we do. Student performance, student achievement, I'd be remiss if I didn't show you at least some data. And so I'm going to shoot up a chart here that talks just a little bit. I hope it's the next bullet. If it's not, we'll backtrack. But it's one of the things that's inherent to where we are is our student athletes have to leave a lot early. And if you've had a student at the high school, or if you've been around the high school much, unfortunately, because of logistics and demographics of where we live, geographically, we miss school. And but I'm proud to report that, again, it goes back to that culture and academic integrity piece, is that our student athletes really take their academics seriously. So I want to show you this slide that shows you our fall sports teams and their collective GPAs for their team. And these are varsity teams. And then out to the right is the conference rank. So there are 10 schools in the conference. And it shows there we rank first in 5 of those sports. I feel a little bit bad for girls cross country and volleyball because they are 6th. But if you look at their GPAs at 3.7 and 3.5 and you're 6th, I don't feel too bad. So I just wanted to show you that just as a kind of a point of order that, you know, the academic piece is extremely important to us and to our students. Obviously, that comes from the parents and the value that they place in academic success. But overall, you know, we're proud of what's happening at Raleigh High School. That gives you kind of a little longer than we'd hoped a snapshot of it, but we appreciate your time. And at this point, we'll answer any questions if you have any.
I have just a quick question. How much does it cost to take the ACT?
Well, if you sign up, it's $50 right now if you just sign up to take it on a Saturday, and $30 if you miss the deadline to add on to that. I might know that here recently.
Sorry for asking.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I'm well versed in that. So it's just right around that $50 mark.
And one thing we're looking at, the free reduced lunch, if they take it on a weekend, they can get a reduced or free rate. The school day test does not.
They don't offer that.
So that's kind of one of the things we want to do.
In your ACT discussion, what were some of the things that the teachers saw after you gave it that made them want to give it again? I mean, what were some of the benefits that they saw from that?
Well, just the benefits that we saw when we first gave it was that every student, you know, oftentimes a student thinks, well, I'm not college material, but hey, they take it and all of a sudden they do well on it and go, hey, maybe I can do that. And so I think that's the big driving force, that teachers see that there are students that they feel like might take it given a different circumstance. And again, some of those that don't take it, that you really want them to, oftentimes they work on those weekends, and they have to work. It's not that they just, have a part-time job but they're working to help their family, to support themselves often. And so some of that, again, went to the discussion of, well, maybe that daytime ACT might be something that we explore.
Unlike our state assessments, it's a consistent measure. Well, seriously.
Yeah.
State assessments, we can't rely on them from year to year.
Well, it's definitely a good measuring stick when you look nationally, because it's the same across the nation. So
we discussed back when the state failed to fund that, what it was going to cost, and I forget what the number was.
It's around $15,000.
Okay, I should have said that then.
And we already have a prep
class, right?
We do have an ACT prep class. You know, you've heard tonight about kind of a revolving, you know, look at programs that you do. We used to offer ACT prep as a, you know, an evening thing or a weekend. We had a few teachers that would do that, but students again stop signing up for that because there's so many online resources. You know, some take the class, and so we went away from that because of went away from the extra stuff right now because students weren't seeing any value in that because there's just so much online stuff that they can do to prepare. So.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well,
Great
thanks for
job.
having us.
Thank you all. Lots of good things going on there. That's my building. Yeah, high school. Last but not least, yes, RTI, RTC. Mr. Duncan and Mr. Chapman.
Okay. Thank you again for this opportunity for Mr. Chapman and I to get to come and present for our school improvement plan. So we'll follow a similar format. The way we arrive at ours is very similar to what you've heard already this evening. But
Well,
we
your
begin.
format. We used you as the poster child for how it's supposed to be done. So.
I appreciate the matching attire, too.
Mr. Houston said that's what we had to wear. We begin in May each year with our school improvement plan, and we start in our PLC teams. Our professional learning communities are made up of, we have 7 that make up our staff, and each of the facilitator or the leader of that team is our building leadership team. So we start in May, and we look at what we can evaluate that we know has happened for the year to see where we're at, so we do an update. And then we kick it off with the back-to-school days, and then we go from there. We disseminate in our leadership team meeting. We take that out to the PLC team, so all the staff have some input. So that's been a good process. This year, you'll notice as we go through, there is a slight difference in the way we did our measurement this year. As we go through the slides, you'll see that this year we concentrated, and this kind of came from several different areas, but we looked at it, all of our strategies and our goals, and we had 3 big themes this year with what we thought we really needed to hit on this year. And basically those came down to enrollment, because with our programs, whether they're adult programs or high school, no one has to come in our buildings, so we really have to share what we do and the relevance to what they can get from those programs. Placement, pretty much everything we do, we're judged on placement, on whether it's accreditation or with DESE or with adult programming. So we really want to hit on that, and then on instructional technology. So those are the 3 things. So you'll see a little difference. Instead of having as many met and not mets with our as we did in 17-18, you'll see in 18-19 we're going to try to measure 3 big areas. And our staff kind of liked this process. It allowed us to go through and spend a little more time with the strategies, and I think we got a lot more input from them. So if you notice on your handout, hopefully everyone has one of those. I've got extras if you don't, but the first page is just a quick facts. I thought that was kind of interesting, possibly to see. I know I won't read that. I just wanted to hit a few points. We do have 10 different school districts that send students to us on the secondary level, and you can see all the schools there. And Dr. Espinoza is with us tonight. She's one of our sending schools. She's a counselor from Cuba. So we really have a great consortium. So all of our superintendents, principals, counselors, we're very fortunate to have all the school districts that work so well together. But you can kind of see some of the things. One of the things, the plus 24, that's just saying that overall our enrollment is up 24 students from 17-18. One of the things, the 34 skill tech, the commingled, just so you kind of have a feel for what that is in our skill technical sciences. Those are programs anything from fire and rescue through drafting, through automotive tech, graphic design, all those programs, we do take adult students in there. So we have the ability, if seats are available, for them to get programs. So they do sit in there with our high school students. So moving into the last year's, I'll cover those fairly quickly. Those are not in your handouts. I have those up here. You can see last year, goal 1, we had a couple not mets. The reinstating drafting and design is a full-time program. It is currently a part-time program. That's the program Bailey's in that the high school had mentioned. So we're hoping to be able to get the enrollment back for it. We've done some things, and you'll see in our new school improvement plan that remains as something that we're trying to shoot for, because that's kind of a base program for a lot of the things we do is the drafting. We felt really good with the annual Career Expo. I know Mr. Packard and Mrs. Haskell was able to come last year, and so we felt really good with it. We're aligning with DESE's high-quality career tech model. One that we didn't meet, we established a rubrics. We're trying to gauge how much participation, not necessarily our competition wins or our leadership, but just overall participation in our CTSOs, which that's career and technical student organizations, such as FFA, Skills USA, all of the ones that we affiliate with. And we set a pretty lofty goal of 5%. We did not meet that, but you'll see we kept that in next year's plan as well. The high quality certificate, we worked on that last year, and registered apprenticeships. You'll still see a little bit more about that, but we were excited to be able to maintain and improve and expand on our registered apprenticeship program. On goal 2, though we were pleased on the student performance and placement. We met those. We do embedded credit. We averaged 85%. Or we averaged B in 85% or more of our students. We expanded our dual credit, our articulations. We met the standards for the MSIP and our adult accreditations. The 2.2 is a very lofty, but it's a requirement for our adult programs to maintain completion, placement, and licensure. So. We also was able to award 2 additional points for all of our consortium schools for the expanding an industry recognized credential. So we were able to expand a program last year in culinary arts, which allowed them all to get 2 additional points on APR. So we're trying to do that again, but there's a point where we just can't continue to expand, but we try. On goal 3, that was about our instructional technology, and we implemented safety certifications in our programs. We did the staff with instructional technology hours. One of the areas we didn't meet was we put in there our administrator professional development plan with our teachers. Put a not met, and it was very interesting how that discussion came about, and we'll show you how we're going to put that in next year's plan from there. So does anybody have any questions over last year's plan? Okay, so moving into this year, we look at the comprehensive school improvement plan, the indicators, or how our placemat, how we help to meet it. I highlighted a few of those. You can see some of the things that we do to try to help in that area. On goal 1, we form a committee because we're looking at ways to increase community and parent involvement as well. Our family night it's been good. It's been a lot better than it's been in the past, but we got places to grow, and I think our staff see that. So we're going to put together a team this spring and try to see what we can do to up that. Highly qualified staff. This is a really neat thing. Mr. Chapman will talk about it a little bit more, but one of the areas is we wrote a grant this over the spring and the summer, and it's with the Career Pathways with DESE to get career and technical education more aware to all of the to core teachers such as academic teachers, to try to let them understand better what we do in our buildings, what career and technical education is. It's been a really neat process. Appreciate Mrs. Atkinson. She has helped us a lot with setting up those budget codes and being able to get that going. It's been a learning process for me, but it's a really neat event. Our spring professional development, we'll have those teachers in our buildings. We'll take them on an industry tour, and we'll wrap them up in here with a industry panel explaining all the things that those students need to know and what they do. So it's really exciting. We kick that off February 15th. So on the third one, continue to implement and register apprenticeships with the Department of Labor. We just this month registered our second apprenticeship in carpentry, and again, that'll be talked about a little bit more in this goal. Very excited with that. Mr. Robinson in our carpentry program has worked real hard, and what's nice that we're finding with the apprenticeships is that brings industry in and meets with our teachers. Our advisories do that, but this just makes it more one-on-one to where we see what they need, and we can tweak our curriculum to get them workers. And there was about 5 really good conversations. The first began with DESE coming down. They were part of that, as well as the Department of Labor and Workforce Development right here in Rolla. So it's been exciting, and it's with a local contractor, and it's really helping him. He's got a worker that hopefully will be there in 5 years that will be somebody that he can count on, and that worker knows they're going to be getting an in wage in 5 years as a journeyman carpenter. So on the student performance, we focus on the completion placement certifications, and on the governance part, we are continuing to implement the high quality indicators that DESE recommended as good practice or best practice a few years ago, and we've got all of our programs aligned there and doing well. I think it's going to be a little more than a best practice in a couple years, so I'm glad we jumped on the bandwagon early. So any questions with any of those? Okay, we'll turn it over to Mr. Chapman with goal number 2, or goal number 1.
There you go. Thanks for having us again. It's all about communication. My boss tells me to wear this shirt, I wear the shirt. So it's about communication, so we do that well. Mr. Duncan is extremely prepared, and if you haven't noticed that in the last several years, I sure have. And so hopefully everybody next year will follow his lead on how we've done it this year. Goal number 1, 2, and 3, we'll have 3 goals. And what we did is we had that big conversation about some of our strategies we weren't meeting. But some of those strategies were more about one program versus another. And with so many different diverse programs, we felt that what we're really trying to do was meet the goal of the goal and meet that measurement. So you'll see our measurement inside our goal this year, and then you'll see those strategies. And for next year, we'll come back and tell you if we've met the major goal, and then we can talk about some of the strategies, but it'll be if we've met the goal or not versus if we met the strategies for that goal. And so that's the big difference you'll see there. And so there's a lot more strategies, but we won't have as many meets on them, and mets and not mets. We've been on the forefront here in Rolla about high quality and career technical education programming. There's actually surveys our teachers do, and we give to our advisory committees also, and our students will get to see those also, where you can actually make sure that our programs are to the standard that Missouri's wanting in a high quality career and tech program. That now is coming into fruition to see where our funding is going to come from in the future, but we're on the forefront of that and have lots of years of data compared to the other schools such as us. We want to maintain affordable tuition, like Mr. Duncan said earlier. People don't have to come to us, and when those sending schools are sending students to us on the secondary level, I'm happy to tell you we've had the same tuition for 9 years, and that's very difficult to do. You have to make the right calls on a lot of situations. But 9 years of the same tuition is pretty significant, I think, and shows the stability of our programming. Also, in our adult programming, affordable tuition, we got to keep that affordable because they have choices also to take practical nursing programs or anything else. So we have to keep that in mind and in the right place also with providing the best that we can. The enhanced recruitment. We've really worked hard with the new counselor in the last couple of years in a career expo for our sophomores. That's what that is, mainly about, because we do see mainly juniors and seniors in our traditional programs at RTIC. And then also in multimedia, Mr. Duncan's really good at Twitter, and I'm not so much, but I did put a picture on there today, but it wasn't of school. Anyways, alumni awareness. We like to work with them also this summer. If you haven't noticed, I'm going to steal a lot of stuff from Mr. Smith because I think he's a great promoter of us now. If you haven't noticed, the reason the number of the bricks aren't there, I'm going to point at him. But the bricks being there, I'm going to point at me. Because our ag department has been putting the bricks down. They say RHS out in front of the high school. It's a great collaboration project in giving our students in Rolla to remember that we're there and make them feel at home too at the high school and vice versa. Also the Bulldog off of 10th Street, if you'll see it, is a nice addition that one of our students helped do the last couple of years. Research and expanding new programs. We're always looking for that. We've got to be at the right place, the right time. One of our newest ones here in this building down the wing is Early Childhood Careers. It's been a very, very good program. We have a great instructor down there. And we're looking at maybe expanding that in the future to some early education. Not just so much early childhood, but early education to get into that teaching. I think we're missing a little bit of that, those students that want to be teachers when they grow up, so hopefully you can do that. Enhanced draft and design, if you'll turn to Mr. Smith's copies of page 4, 5, 6, and 7, you'll see what we can do in drafting and design. And one of the things I like to tell people about that is, thank you, Mr. Smith, it's not just drafting and design, it's CAD, and with that it's really Revit and Inventor. And one of the questions I'd like to talk to Bailey about while she was still here is what programmings did she learn and how did she learn those programmings to get to where you saw those renderings? There's a lot there. And she's done extremely well in the short time she's been there. But our students can do some really cool things. And that's where they're headed in the future to do those renderings and drawings for other people. Increased career and technical student organizations. That's our FFA, our DECA, our HOSA, TSA. And you guys will see every month we have some outstanding students doing some great things. And just as the high school said, or in the junior high said, giving those students another thing to be involved in, it really helps them through their school and their career. Give everybody a place to be. The Career Pathways Grant, Mr. Duncan talked about, it's going to give us the opportunity of 30-some people, career professionals, i.e. teachers, counselors, and principals in our senior school area, several from Rolla, that traditionally don't know exactly how our career tech ed programs work. We're going to put them through 3 days of training this year to do that. And at the end of it, the thing I'm most excited about is that engagement piece with them. We talk about engaging every day when I go into classrooms. I'm looking for engaging with students. This, we're going to engage those professionals to actually produce something and bring back that third day of a lesson or something that they can promote in their classroom that talks about being career and college ready. So that's exciting for us. And some tours and things will go on with that. Non-traditional, we had in Rad Tech, we had a student win a state non-traditional award. Those are some measures that Perkins uses, some of our funding always. It's very hard to reach those things, i.e. males in nursing and females in construction trades. But we try to work on that, and we've had some great success lately, and we want to continue to do that. We want to continue to enhance our senior school and recruitment. Rolla students and senior schools, we always want to get more and more of them. And then we have just those last three things have to do with recruitment. And like Mr. Duncan said earlier, one of our main games, we have to have students in the classroom and enough students to keep that affordable tuition, which will make more students come. So those things. Goal 2, we want to make sure 95% of our students are placed to give them and make sure they're college and career ready. Through DESE, we're part of College and Career Ready, and we want 95% of our students placement. Now, what we talk about placement traditionally in our programming is we talk about it 180 days out. 6 months after they graduate or in one of our programs, what are they doing within that time? Are they furthering their education? Are they going to work? And they're going to work in the field that we train them for. So those are the numbers we look at, and that's what we mean by placement rate at 95%. We want those students, we want to give them good knowledge and skills to get them a job or further education. So those benchmarks are for Perkins, DESE, and all of our accreditations you'll see here in a little bit, and it's in a handout. We have to meet placement rates for a lot of those things. We want to continue to expand work keys testing. A lot of people talk about work keys testing, especially closer to St. Louis and those areas. That's coming this way, and as it comes this way, we hope that we can meet the need and give those students, or most of our students, if not all, another credential that they can take to their potential employer with them. Implement safety certifications and credentials. Last year we hit hard on that. Safety is a huge part in any job you're going to nowadays is safety. I watched a video today about a cattle sale barn, and they were using robots to move cattle around the sale barn. And I had to laugh at it, but the whole part of that was it was a safety thing. And safety in human lives are extremely important, in getting people hurt and keeping people healthy. That's a lot of money tied up in different jobs out there. Expand and maintain dual credits and articulations. What I can say about that is most everybody is sitting in this building are going to say you probably got those with East Central. Correct, we do. We also have them with Drury. We also do with OTC out of Springfield, and we are looking at some right now through Missouri State, West Plains, and getting those dual credits are awesome for our students and the ability for them to meet their goals in the future. We want to meet and accelerate adult programming. You'll see that also. The accreditations, we go through a massive amount of accreditations. People walk through this building in suits and ties to see what we're doing all the time to make sure we're up to par. A lot of that has to do with Title IV funds, and the federal government says if we're going to allow you to use Title IV funds, you're going to have a good program. So that's where you see our accreditations there. We're emphasizing our employment skills. We just had meetings with COPIC in the last couple of days, Mr. Duncan and I, about bringing some more employable skills into our facility to help some of our students. We're having some of our students some of our non-traditional students that are coming to us later in their age, and their age is older, and they're having trouble getting back in the workforce, not because they can't do the job, it's because they can't get the job. And it's because the manager's 25 years old, they're 50, they're going into a mechanic shop. How do I interview? What do I wear? What do I do with those things? So getting that employment is good, and we want to add to that. Registered apprenticeships, terribly exciting. If you watch the news, you hear a lot about registered apprenticeships. We're registered apprenticeships with the Department of Labor and the Department of Education. Those are awesome activities for us to be involved in, and it also brings in these local Oxford Constructions, the last one we've done one with out of St. James, and they're working a major job here in Raleigh right now. That student, what does that mean? Here's what it means for a student. The student is starting out making 50% of what a journeyman wage is in that field. In this particular field, for grins, let's say it's $25. So they would start there at $12.50, and they know that working in the 3 to 4 year range, they're going to make $25 an hour. What an awesome opportunity it is to lay that on paperwork down with the parents and talk about where you can be in 3 and 4 years. We do that when we talk about college a lot with our students, but not a whole lot when we're talking about going in the trades of where I can be. And these are papers that if this student takes this schooling and performs this well on his job, this is what he's going to make. And so those are really exciting to give to students. And I also think it's real eye-opening to parents on what my son or daughter can actually make in 4 or 5 years if they take this program seriously. So implement a job fair. Our allied health programs is the strategy for that. There's a lot of employers wanting our students to come work for them, and so we're going to open up an opportunity for them to come, hopefully cherry pick all of our students in the spring. So, any questions about goal 1 or 2, or I'll get out of your way? Good deal.
What's going on?
I would like to go back just real quickly to the grant, the Pathways grant. I meant to say earlier, but when that came out, the idea was to get a group, middle school, junior high, high school age, and reaching out to Dr. Pritchett, Dr. Davis, Dr. Fulton. We've got teams from both buildings, so Rolla is very well represented. We also had interest from 5 of our other sending schools, so we've got those teachers coming into Rolla, so we're real excited about that. But appreciate all the work that they do, and they got with their teachers and got those teams assigned. So we're anxious about that. So appreciate all the help from the other schools too. So goal 3, basically that one is again dealing with instructional technology. We want to increase in all of our programs. And basically what we're doing there is Brenda Spurgeon, Mrs. Strain, Mr. Wright, they do a great job for us. They customize a lot of our training. We've got a pretty broad range of teachers. We have some that only have adults, and we have some that have adults in high school and some that just have high school. So we split those up, and we have different things that she goes through with those, so it's very effective, and we are continuing that this year. It's very helpful. On our surveys, that's going to address the one. As we went through this, we had some really good conversations with the staff when we started school back. And we actually also survey our students with each teacher. So each teacher administers a survey, so the students get to give feedback on them. And we are looking at, we've had one that we've used forever, and so we're actually looking through those, and we're creating one for them, as well as some of the questions on our staff. We want to be able to drill down that the staff can do on administrators, on Mr. Chapman and I. So we're looking at those and starting to put together that draft, so we'll have that ready to roll out this spring as well. So as we put that together, we'll show that up on hopefully in this year's, by the end of the year. Basically, the last two, the state-of-the-art technology equipment, we try to write grants. We do 50-50 grants. We do enhancement grant for the career and tech programs. Our programs, they're very expensive to stay up, but there is some money out there. Appreciate the board's support. I know a couple times this year we've came with some high-ticket items. We got a new X-ray machine in radiologic tech. We've got the new CNC router in wood manufacturing in play now. So, and lots of things, lesser scale, but we're able to get a lot of matching money there. And Desi's been great to work with this year. We've had some stuff break down after school started, and get with Dr. Zales. We get those signed, and they're still supporting us on matching funds there. So we keep those up, and I think we're in pretty good shape with those, but we'll continue to update as we need. One of the teams would like on our professional development industry collaboration. There's some interesting thoughts out there on some of the days, getting some of the industry to come in and do some workshops in our staff. So the last two, and you have those in your handouts, those are similar to what we've done. We added a few this year. But these are just different accreditations that our programs hold in different areas. And the ICAR is the collision repair. Some of these you've seen before. Some look familiar. Some not so much. But that's a lot. Some of the programs have a lot of work to maintain and keep those.
Mr. Chapman said, not only is the federal government here in suits, as you said, to assess the suits and ties, to assess because we're receiving federal dollars for those programs, but there's a lot more accreditation hoops that these programs have to jump through too. And I think last year was the first time we showed them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Composite of all those. They all don't happen at the same time either. So it seems like there's always somebody in the building assessing some program.
Yeah, correct. Okay.
Very good.
Any questions we could?
What did you say, what areas did you have apprenticeships going on now?
Currently, we have one, the occupation title is wood machinist in our cabinet making, wood manufacturing, so the CNC machine we bought this year, with Quaker windows. And then we have another one in carpentry that we just registered this month. So we're excited about that, yeah.
Matt, I know where your collision repair guys can get some buses to work on.
So now that Mr. Lucas is relaxed, I can ask him a question.
Okay. Yeah.
So you mentioned that apprenticeship, they start at 50%.
Yes, sir.
But does that not increase
It
each
does.
year's?
There's incremental increases.
Yeah, so like maybe the year before they finish, they're at 80%?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And basically, it's all based upon a 500-hour, what we have them based upon is at 500 hours of completion of school and work that they increase at a different level. So this apprenticeship that we just did is a 6,000-hour apprenticeship program. So there's 12 steps and to get to that final wage. But
And we recommend the 50% the employer has say in it. We just try to get buy-in to where it's not too low.
Yeah.
I think that's when we did something at the university, that's where we started.
Yeah, that's worked out really good.
Yeah.
And they were 6,000 hours also.
Yeah.
And these aren't union necessarily.
Yeah.
The apprentice journeyman is union terminology, but they're not union. So.
But it's great to have that every 500 hours in increments, and it actually describes in there what they have to do in that 500 hours. Is it metal fabrication? Is it wood studs? And it goes on, flooring and those things. So it's a checkoff sheet.
Well, I was gonna say, one other thing you guys don't know, Lucas sits on the state,
Fine
committee
arts?
for fine arts standards.
Yeah.
And nobody exudes fine arts.
More than.
The token CTE guy there, but I have learned a lot about how the state of Missouri redefines state standards in all programming, but the fine arts is Connie Shoemaker is wonderful. I sat next to her, so I know what we're talking about. But they're all very helpful.
So there's been a lot of talk, chatter, discussion about career-ready education in the media and so forth certainly in the last 12 months, if not before. Is there any funding you see coming down the line that's going to support that?
Perkins just got reauthorized, and it's looking favorable. You know, probably in the last year, I've had more people, employers needing workers than I ever remember.
That's great.
So I think there's a possibility. The apprenticeship seems to be everywhere. That's where everybody's going. Junior colleges are starting to utilize them as well. So.
And you're on a task force too, a DESI task force. You briefly share that too?
Well, it hasn't met yet, but it looks like there's one for on the career readiness that Dr. Henningson's put together. There's a Senate bill that is looking to bring career exploration back to possibly at the middle school level. There's a lot of things that go with that before they just put together a program like that to all the schools, but it looks pretty bright for career and tech ed, honestly, in the next 5 years, I would say.
Started swinging.
Well, I'm hoping, yeah. You know, it hasn't been that way for a while. It's been pretty rough, but I mean, it looks like it could. You know, Perkins being reauthorized, it's been since 2006, I think. So this year, it goes into effect July of 19, but it'll take it a year of transition, so it'll take it a few years to catch up. But we're hopeful that the federal funding will be more, and if that is, maybe the state would be as well. So appreciate all your support. A lot of the stuff we do, we're very grateful and appreciate everything. So
thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
Thanks,
Well, I know that myself and the rest of the board really appreciate y'all being here tonight. There's so many things, great things going on, and I know it seems like a rush for y'all to go through it all, but we do appreciate all the time and everything that y'all have given us tonight. We do need a motion to approve the 2018-2019 district professional development plans as presented, which will guide the professional development activities and expenditures for the district staff.
Well, a few items about that, Mrs. Haskell. If you'll, I'll draw your attention to pages 51 through 59 in your packet for the district's professional development plan. You've already approved the allocation as part of the budget approval, but now that we've finished the school improvement plans, this document ties together the allocation of how we spend professional development dollars in the district on staff development issues with the school improvement goals that you've seen from each building, along with the district's comprehensive school improvement plan. So in this document, you see we have representatives from each campus in the district on the district professional development committee, along with a calendar of the yearly events and responsibilities for the PDC committee. And finally, starting on page 57, are the building goals that have been presented over the past two meetings. So putting all that together, then I would ask for approval of the district's professional development plan to formalize the goals and the PD allocations.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I would make the motion exactly as Mr. Hounson just stated, without trying to repeat it.
And is there a second to the exactly how Mr. Hanson said?
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. Okay, the first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? All right. And once again, thank you all for coming tonight.
Good job.
Yeah, good job. Okay, Dan, what's going on in the school district? All around the whole school district?
Around the whole school district, all right.
Calendar committee.
Do what?
The calendar committee.
I know, right? Yeah. So tonight through Saturday is the high school's annual play, or biannual play. This is the fall one. Next semester will be the spring, which is also musical. So tonight it started at 7, and tomorrow will start at 7, and on Saturday it'll start at 2. Winter sports are starting back up. I know that basketball is starting to come back as well. So I believe tonight was 7th grade boys and girls basketball against Thomas Jefferson. Next week we have the boys and girls key sport basketball tip-off. And that is, actually, I'm sorry, that's this Saturday at noon. And so sports are starting to get off. I noticed that basketball especially. I know that I've seen a lot of my friends that are in wrestling and all those different sports that are definitely practicing. Coming to school covered in bruises, but and next week is Thanksgiving break. So.
And any excitement about today being a snow day?
Most definitely.
The band had a lot of success.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. So this season we went pretty much undefeated. This season.
Wonderful.
Yes.
They'll be here in December
Right.
to be recognized.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, December 13th.
They'll fill the room.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Any board members been to any buildings or done any visiting?
I went to the Truman Elementary Veterans Day program last
Great.
Friday.
Uh-huh.
So Dr. Alice was there, but
Great.
it was very nice. Had a 104-year-old veteran in
my gosh.
attendance from, Presbyterian Manor. It was very well done. Second graders took the lead and they were on the stage, but it was great.
Great. I got to help with the corps banquet at the high school. So that was neat. We got to see at least probably half of the students, I think, in the high school that we served lunch to that day. So it was a much better day on Tuesday than Monday with the rain. So it was a nice day to be grilling out. If everybody would go to the next page and look at all the dates to remember. The next thing would be a volunteer luncheon on the 29th. If you've not gotten back with Gina, you might want to let her know if you will be able to attend that or not. Also, not listed on here, but Myra sent a note today about the retirement of Larry Green and Delinda Gilardi on November 29th also, and it's from 3 to 5 in this room. So we got a notice on that today. Retired Teachers Luncheon, December 5th. First day to file, the 11th. Our board meeting, the 13th. And then we also got a note from Myra about the lamp lighting. It's at the RTC Lecture Hall on December 20th at 10 a.m. So lots going on between now and end of the year.
Did you also get the invitation in the mail for the first responders?
First responders,
on December
yes,
4th?
I did get that, yes, December 4th. That's a good thing to add. That's at the middle school.
Yeah, 11 o'clock.
Right, first responders. Okay, anything else? Okay, all right, then I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Sorry.